What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Ideal Offseason. This is the series where I get to put the GM cap on for a little bit and take a look at an NBA team and help them navigate through the offseason. This is supposed to be the most realistic look that I can give at an offseason. I don't want to do this thing where it's like, oh, this team gets Paul George, this team gets LeBron James, now we win a championship, right? No, it's looking at the entire team and being like, hey, what is this team trying to do? What's realistic for them? Like for me in the doing the Bulls video the other day, it was how do I tear this team down? For the 76ers, it's how do we win a championship, right? So it's different for every team. And this team's somewhere in the middle, and I don't know where they are. But hey, this series has been really successful for me as of late, so I really appreciate the love you guys are showing. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment. I know you guys are going to comment because you have been commenting, especially you Philly fans. I love you Philly fans, by the way. But I've responded to every comment on my YouTube channel so far, and I intend to keep on doing so. Let's get into the video. Alrighty, so we're back on the spreadsheet. For those of you that don't know, this is a little spreadsheet that I put together to help kind of illustrate these videos for me, because if I'm just like talking into the void, it doesn't really do anything at all. And a lot of you guys have been asking to get this spreadsheet. So all you have to do, leave a comment saying that you want the spreadsheet or whatever. I'll DM you a link to the Discord. You can hop in the Discord, shoot me a DM there. It's all a big marketing ploy for you guys to get on the Discord. I'm not going to lie about that to you, but then I'll just shoot you over the link to the sheet. So super cool, super easy thing. I've done it for probably like 30, 40 people at this point, so been really cool. But anyway, team in question today, the Utah Jazz. Then this is what I mean when I say this team is really, really confusing to me, right? I don't know what direction I exactly want to go with this team. I've got a pretty good idea of like what we're going to do, but I don't know exactly what the right thing for this team to do is, because this team feels dangerously close to landing in that kind of purgatory of mediocrity, meaning that like they don't really have the guys to go be great, but they're not bad enough to just be downright bad and get like the first overall pick. And there's a part of me that's just like, I kind of just want to blow this team up and keep like a Walker Kessler, Keontae George, and then try to go after the first overall pick and get Cooper Flagg, right? Like that makes a ton of sense. But the Utah Jazz have also made it pretty clear that like that's just not how they operate. That's not the business that they want to be in. They're kind of like the Indiana Pacers, if you will, or like the Miami Heat. They're a team and an organization that are like, we're trying to win at all times. And so the best way we know to do that is to try and win basketball games at all times. And now these guys have some resources and some assets going forward, so that's helpful. Like we're going to be able to make moves to move up in the draft and things like that, right? And those are things that we're going to explore today. Because you know what, let's just even start here, right? Let me zoom in a little bit so that you guys can actually see. For those of you that haven't been paying attention to the NBA, the Utah Jazz have a lot of picks. There's like 4 teams in the NBA that have like everybody's pick at this point, and Utah is one of them. So the Jazz, like they have all their picks going forward. They also have a bunch of Cavaliers picks. They also have a bunch of Timberwolves picks from the Rudy Gobert trades and the Donovan Mitchell trades respectively. So first round picks are very plentiful going forward. We're not going to need all of them. We can certainly trade to get some. So I think the direction I want to go in is to basically try to make this team a little bit more competitive, right? I think we're going to try to move up in the draft, or we're going to take a look at the draft boards and see if it's worth moving up at all. And then we'll kind of attack it from there, right? Because I want to make this team better, right? The goal, I think, for this team this year is to make the playoffs. So let's keep that in perspective. We're trying to make the playoffs in the West, because that's the thing, right? That's what the Utah Jazz want to do. They want to be competitive. So I think it's in my best interest to make this like a playoff team. Maybe it's not like a top 4 seed. I can almost promise you it won't be. But how do we develop Keontae George, develop Walker Kessler, Taylor Hendricks as well? Like, do we keep riding with Colin Sexton? How do we help Lauri Markkanen out a little bit? But also, let's add a little more talent to this team to help it out. All right, so let's take a look at a couple other things. I'm going to zoom back in now. Salary cap space. We're doing really, really well. We got $41 million in cap space, and our best player, Lauri Markkanen, only makes $18 million. He's on the best contract ever. Now, I don't do extensions or anything in these videos, so I'm not going to pretend to do that. We're just going to assume that he's going to sign an extension. From everything I've heard from my people and from what the reports are, Lauri Markkanen likes it in Utah. That's awesome. So we're just going to assume that he's going to stick around. We're not going to worry about that contract. It's not worth my time to fill all that stuff out. But we've got a ton of cap space to play with, which is awesome. And let's take a look at the roster. We got John Collins making $26 million. is there a way that we can offload him? Because I feel like John Collins is kind of the weird fit on this team. Like, I can slide Lowry over to the 4, no problem there. But between Lowry, Kessler, Collins, like, how much time are we really giving to Taylor Hendricks? And Taylor Hendricks was such an odd player for them this year. He was a top 10 draft pick. He, like, didn't play with the team at all until the end of the season, and he finally showed his face, and we were like, oh, like, there's Taylor Hendricks. Like, where has he been? Like, and we're all like, is he that bad to where y'all can't play him right now? And he wasn't great, but he did have some moments later in the season where you're like, okay, like, I see a little something there, so I got to explore that, right? I mean, the team used a top 10 pick on the guy. I got to explore him a little bit, so I want to see if we can move John Collins. John Collins is always a guy that wants to be moved, or that can be moved. So I don't know what team needs John Collins and his $26 million for 2 more years, but we'll take a look at it. Colin Sexton, interesting point in the team. He played really well last year. I'm probably pretty interested in keeping him around. I think the energy and everything was great. Obviously, Lauri Markkanen's our dude. We're going to develop Taylor Hendricks. Keontae George was a nice surprise for this team. Walker Kessler could be an all-defensive player one year, so we like him. Yurtseven, there's not many other center options out there in like free agency or anything. If something comes along in the draft, I'm not all that incentivized to take one because we have Walker Kessler already. So Yurtseven might just stick around for this year just cause, and because of that, his contract isn't fully guaranteed. I'm going to guarantee his contract, and Walker Kessler actually has a team option because it's after his 2nd season, so he can stay. Bryce Sensabaugh, another rookie from this last season, a guy that I wasn't very high on, and I'm still not like too high on, but he had enough good moments for the team this year to where I'm like, okay, you know what? Like, let's just pencil you in as kind of like a backup wing right now and see what we got going forward, right? Like, why not? Darius Baisley's going to be on the team. His contract's technically not like, I don't think all the way guaranteed either, but we're going to be keeping him around. Kenneth Lofton, not guaranteed contract. And then we have Jordan Clarkson, who I'm probably going to look to trade him as well, because I just want to get something for Jordan Clarkson. I just don't think it's worth holding on to him at this point. Like, we want the team to be good, but I think that it's probably best to try and get some value out of Jordan Clarkson now. Regarding the Kenny Lofton thing, sorry, y'all, I'm not all that interested in bringing old Kenny back here. So Kenny is not going to be brought back. I don't think he will in real life. I know you guys see the G League highlights and everything like that, and you see him score points sometimes. It's not like authentic basketball, man. I don't know a better way to put it. It's just, it isn't it. It just isn't it. But okay, with that being said, we've got 5 we've got 5 roster spots. We have 3 draft picks for this season right now, and we've got some moves we want to make. Normally, I do the draft first. I think what I want to do here is I want to start looking to make some trades first. Probably starting with John Collins. I don't think I'm going to touch Colin Sexton, but I've got some ideas for Jordan Clarkson that I want to try to explore, and we're only going to do it if it makes sense. I don't need to trade Jordan Clarkson, but I want to see if there's something that we can do. I just don't think we need him right now. I think we can find some better assets to throw on this team, and some of the things we're probably going to try to prioritize is bringing in like a 3-and-D wing on this team. I feel like that's something we're really missing, especially like at the starting small forward, because if we can move Collins out, I feel a lot, honestly, better putting Markkanen at the 4 and just finding some sort of starting small forward. So let's go explore what that could look like. Oh, you guys, I'm back on Fanspo. You guys know how much I love Fanspo. It's a cool thing. It's a really cool thing at the end of the day. For those of you that don't know what Fanspo is, it's just a place where like I have all these like NBA tools, like mock draft things and everything. I really like it a lot. But anyway, let's go over to the Utah Jazz, and we're trying to trade John Collins. So here's my thought, right? The first thing I kind of want to do is I want to go take a look at all the player contracts this year, and I'm actually going to sort this by this first, and we're going to find John Collins right here, and I want to look for players kind of around that value or whatever. Is there a team that we can trade with where the salaries are somewhat close and maybe they're a movable player where we can go bring a John Collins into the team or off the team, give it to them? Maybe let's just see if something makes sense, like money-wise, to move around. Honestly, low-key, this Andrew Wiggins trade is really, really interesting to me. So let's just presume that Golden State is trying to retool things, right? Like, they want to add a little bit of size, and they're not all that interested in Wiggins anymore just because of, you know, his declining play or whatever. Are we excited to take on an Andrew Wiggins? It doesn't like light up my brain, but at least it gives us the position that we want, right? He gives us defense. He hopefully gives us some 3-point shooting. He brings us a little bit of rebounding that we're lacking right now. He does have a longer contract, and it is going to be like more money in the long run. And that's where I get like a little bit iffy on it, but I at least wanted to bring it up and talk about it. Honestly, you could look at the team and say Draymond Green as well. Like, that's not really a guy we'd be interested in playing, but like that's another name that you could throw in for things. How diabolical would it be to send him back to Atlanta after all those trade rumors and everything? We trade him back for DeAndre Hunter? No, this series is supposed to be realistic. We're supposed to be realistic here. I'm not seeing a ton of other names that make like immediate sense. So like I'd either have to trade him to like a 76ers or something like that, where they just have the cap space already, which like, you know, that's certainly an option that we can explore or whatever, because I'm sure they're just trying to add talent or whatever. But is John Collins the right player to have on the team? I don't think Philly would probably be all that excited about him, because I know you Philly fans are watching at this point after my 76ers video of it. Let me explore Andrew Wiggins and see what all we can do with that one. All right, so I got the Jazz pulled up here, and it starts off with John Collins and Andrew Wiggins, right? So we do that. We try the trade. I presume it just works. Yep, it just works. That's awesome, right? We're not interested in that at first. 29-year-old versus 26-year-old. One was a little bit more productive this year. Two, we know they need John Collins, and there's not a lot of opportunities for them to get bigs on the team. Like, because John Collins could really be like their center too at times, which could be crazy. Like, he could be a perfect center for them at times. But just like, what else can they provide us with to try and kind of make it worth our while? Like a Moses Moody or something like that. Moses Moody doesn't want to be on the team anymore. You know, that's kind of an interesting thing for us. So is that a way for us to bring in a little bit of talent on the wing? Like, I kind of want to talk about it at the very least, right? So let's say they throw Moses Moody in there too. I've got the cap space, right? So that can just work. Honestly, like, is there anything else that we'd ask them to like give us or whatever? Because they're giving up their former lottery pick or whatever. We're giving up a guy that used to score 20 points a game though in Atlanta. Like, he used to be a 20 and 10 type dude. So is this trade worth it? Do I need to include any more picks? Like, I've got all the picks in the world. What do they got going on for picks right now? They have a second round pick for this year that I'm not all that interested in. I don't really need any more picks. Honestly, like, this trade is pretty fair at the end of the day. Like, I get a young player to develop that he doesn't want to be on the team anymore. We get our starting wing, which it weighs us down contract-wise for the future, but I'd rather at least have the chance to develop some of these guys. And I'm still trying to be competitive this year, and I think having Andrew Wiggins on the team is going to be more valuable if we can get the right energy out of him. So I say we go through with this. I say we go through with this trade right here, and we bring in Andrew Wiggins. So that turns John Collins into Andrew Wiggins here. So we turn this into Lauri Markkanen. This is now Andrew Wiggins. Interesting. Okay, I would say like this starting five is probably better than the one with John Collins. I know John Collins like played well with the team last year and everything, and he was a nice shooter for them. Nice shooters, maybe a little generous. He shot like 37% or something like that, I want to say. But this gives a better opportunity for Taylor Hendricks to be out there. This gives us an actual wing defender that can come out and start right away. And you know what? If we need to trade the contract at some point, we can pair it with a pick to go get a star player at some point. That's the other way that you have to think about this, right? A star player becomes available because there's not really one just being thrown around out there for trade right now. We'll be able to go get them with like a Wiggins contract and draft picks. So that's kind of the idea with that. He helps us win now, and we can use him down the line if need be. Oh, I'm supposed to take somebody else off here, right? Oh, I needed to add Moses Moody. Bring Moses Moody onto my team right now. Thank you very much. And he's going to slide into like that spot for right now, but just be patient. We're going to try to move Jordan Clarkson now. Alrighty, so now I want to start to explore a Jordan Clarkson trade a little bit. And the first team I thought of for Jordan Clarkson is a team that I was really hoping would pick him up this year, and that's the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Minnesota Timberwolves might be on their way to win the finals this year, for all I know. But I just think they could use a little bit more scoring, especially at the guard position. Someone that can just come in and be a guy when Anthony Edwards isn't on the court. And so I think that would be a good fit. $14 million is not all that crazy to make up. Like, do we have to make up the whole $14 million? I take it we do. Okay, so is there something that we can do on this team to kind of make it happen? They don't really have any picks we're all that interested in, and I'm not really seeing a contract that's probably going to make things work all that well for us. So this trade might be dead before it even started, unfortunately, because I don't see them trading any of their core dudes or whatever. And like, do we want like a Leonard Miller or something like that? It's just not even close to enough money to make the trade happen. So I'm not sure that something like this is going to work. I think I got to find another team. I'm trying to think of contending teams that could use him. Like, is there any way that we can move him to like the Denver Nuggets or something? Bring a little bit of scoring off the bench, because they've struggled to score at times this season, especially with Jamal Murray being a little broken. They need someone off the bench. Jordan Clarkson is the bench scorer, right? So what can we do with this? There's a player option on Reggie Jackson. That's kind of interesting. I could take back Reggie Jackson for a year and he'd still be like competent at the very least, and he could be kind of a vet on the team. So like what just happens? Like let me just talk it through, right? Let me just talk it through. Like what happens with this? Trade failed. They'd need to cut another $8 million still. Okay, so they're gonna have to make the whole thing work as well. And is that where like Zeke Naji comes in? Like 4 years of Zeke Naji's contract? I don't think I want Zeke Naji for 4 years. I just don't think that makes sense. I don't like that very much, but that's kind of the only way the trade works, huh? So, okay, this team might be dead in the water, too. What about the Clippers? Do they want like a Westbrook-like swap or something like that? Like not a swap, but a replacement, right? So what could we possibly do for that? There's a player option on PJ Tucker. They don't have any draft picks though. So I'd want to get a draft pick for Jordan Clarkson most likely, or somebody that can help me win now. And so, yep, that trade's not going to work either. I hope you guys don't mind that I'm going through all this. I'm just showing you guys. I don't really plan this stuff out beforehand. I'm just thinking it through like at the same time as you guys. So just trying to see what could work. What about the Orlando Magic? They need shooting. They need someone that can dribble the basketball. That's important for them too. And they've got some draft picks that they could give us. So I feel like I've been going to the Magic a lot recently. They've just kind of got movable pieces or whatever. So this is what I'm instantly thinking, right? So let's take Jordan Clarkson and let's take Joe Ingles, right? Joe Ingles has a team option. I don't even have to pick it up. He doesn't have to come back onto this team, right? They might not want to trade Joe Ingles, but you know what? They'd be getting Jordan Clarkson back. So it'd be a hurtful thing for them, but it'd be something that they can do. That trade is a success. Okay, that's interesting. So we've got something to build off of now. What else can you guys give me? What else can you give me to make this kind of interesting? Like, I'm not interested in the rights to Okeke or anything like that, or Gary Harris, like Jonathan Isaac. Like, don't really need any more people at that position, and I'm not sure the Orlando Magic want to give him up for how much time they've put into him at this point. I don't think they're going to give us, like, Jet Howard or anything like that, or Anthony Black. I'm sure they're going to try to develop both of those guys. Is there just a way that we can just kind of take a first-round pick for him? Like, is there, like, a future pick that would be like kind of nice for us? Where are we lacking in first round picks? Nowhere is the answer. But like, could we bulk up and just take another Jordan Clarkson or another first round pick somewhere? Like this 2028 first round pick. They have their 2027, so they can trade their 2028. Like, Jordan Clarkson's probably not worth more than one first round pick anyway. So do we feel good just taking a first round pick for Jordan Clarkson? Like, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're trying to win, right? But we can make more moves to try to make that happen still. So I think what we do is we at least include that in the trade, right? As a 2028 first round pick. Is there anybody at all, like a young guy that you can kind of give me? Like a Caleb Houston is kind of interesting to me. That's a wing that can come in and shoot for us. That's only 21 years old. Give me Caleb Houston too. I'd like to have Caleb Houston. Does this trade work? There we go. Now we got a 6'8 shooter on the team, and we got somebody back in the trade. Okay, I can live with this. So Jordan Clarkson is turning into Caleb Houston here. Wow, that cleared up a lot of cap space right then and there, didn't it? So I don't need him. Moses Moody now slides into a spot where he can get a little bit of PT, right? I'm going to move Darius Baisley back, and we now have Caleb Houston. So we've added wings now. Wings was going to be a big problem for us. We've added some. Are any of these guys going to be future starters, though? Most likely not. Well, Moses Moody might be, but you never know. So what did we do here so far? We've added a young player in Moses Moody who's been looking to get some minutes. That's cool. We've made this team probably a little bit more competitive. Like, they're missing Clarkson. I don't really think Clarkson contributed to like winning all that much personally, but we've now got a starting lineup of George, Sexton, Wiggins, Markkanen, Kessler. That's not an easy loss team at any point in the night. So I like that. We still have our draft picks too. I want to take a look at some mock drafts now because I'm like, okay, I've got young guys like Caleb Houston, Sensabaugh, Moses Moody. We're going to see which one of these dudes work, right? Taylor Hendricks is on the team too. What can I do with these picks? And is there somebody worth moving up in the draft for? Is there a team that would move down as well? I just pulled up a mock draft so I could kind of visualize things a little bit. Like, Pistons don't want to trade down. I don't think... If the Wizards take Reed Shepherd at 2, Wizards fans should go on strike, in all honesty. Stephon Castle at 3. Holy shit. Like, you guys, where is Donovan Clingan? Oh my gosh, yeah. Like, don't overthink this stuff. Don't overthink this stuff. Like, moving up to 7, no. Like, would the Spurs be willing to move back a little bit because there's not an ideal pick necessarily? Like, I don't think Dillingham is necessarily the answer for them at point guard, in like all honesty. And I don't think there is like a guy outside of maybe Nikola Topic they talk themselves into, but I'm sure they'd rather have Risa Shea. But if their pick's going to be at 5 right now, I don't exactly know. I think I wouldn't mind like spending the 29th pick to move up at the chance that like a Risa Shea is available. But who else would we want? Like, let's say Risa Shea doesn't become available, because I think this would be an interesting option for us, like at the 3. Like, he's a guy I at least see with like starter potential in the NBA, could be a nice player. What other guys would we be interested in, like at the wing or something, moving up? Because I'm not sure that guy really exists if we don't get him. Like, a Stephon Castle is an interesting player, but I don't know if he fits like the true NBA wing, if you will. I'm not sure if that's the most exciting thing in the world. The UConn guys are always pretty solid, and he's not a great shooter. You can develop shooting and everything. He was a pretty good passer. He was a good athlete. He's young. He's strong. That's interesting at the very least. Yeah, guys, I'm not sure it's going to be worth moving up. I don't think it makes a ton of sense. What we might try to do is we could package like the 29 and 32nd pick and try to move up if there's somebody that we really like towards like the back half of the draft or something. Like, is there a team that we'd be, or a guy that we would be interested in? Like, Tyler Smith, I think, is interesting like in every single draft. Like, don't get me wrong there. This mock draft looks so dumb, by the way. This doesn't make like any sense to me. Here's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to try to make another trade happen, but I think I'm going to use these late first round picks to try to steal some guys off of contenders. And this is what I'm thinking. NBA teams, especially contenders, love late first round picks, especially like second round picks too, because it's cheap ways to fill out the back half of your roster, right? With dudes that you think could be something someday. So I just want to go back to like the trade simulator and everything. Just take a look and see if there's not a player we can steal off one of these contending teams for like a late first round pick or something. Someone's just trying to salary dump a little bit more, but they can help us right now. That's what I want to look for. Do you think we could partner with the Atlanta Hawks and be like a salary dumping spot for them? That could be kind of interesting. Like, they need to cut salary, right? They need to. So we could use them as a way to steal a player from them, huh? I kind of like that idea. So I don't think it needs to be like a Clint Capella. It's not going to be a Kongwu. Like, I just don't think that's absolutely necessary. Like, a Sadiq Bey's kind of interesting. He's an unrestricted free agent or whatever. Like a Bogdan Bogdanovic could be interesting to just include like a little bit more of a winning wing, but we're trying to play Moses Moody at the same time. I'm not really seeing something that's going to make a ton of sense for us. Like, I don't think bringing in DeAndre Hunter is going to be the answer necessarily. So I kind of want to look around like a little bit more at another team that maybe is just trying to dump some salary. I don't know. I just don't know who exactly that is. Is it the Pacers? Is it the Magic? I don't know. What about the Grizzlies, right? Because they're trying to free up cap space like something crazy right now. Is there a way we could just steal Brandon Clarke? Because I'd much rather have Brandon Clarke as the backup center. He kind of gives us a different, more athletic big man option. And it's for 3 years. Like, he's still kind of in his prime right now. There's a team option on Zaire Williams. Like, I think Zaire Williams is a guy that could really use like a fresh start, because you really saw something with him at first. Could be an interesting thing to look at, but I kind of like the Brandon Clarke idea. I'm not going to lie. So, like, what does that look like? Brandon Clarke comes over here. We take the salary from them or whatever, and then they get, they get this first round pick technically, which is technically like the Thunder pick or whatever at like 29. Are we able to just like do that trade? We are. I'm more than cool with doing this. Let's bring Brandon Clarke in to be our backup center or whatever. That helps us a ton, in my opinion, gives us a more quality backup center. They get to cut a bunch of salary cap and have like another draft pick for them to use if they want. All right, so we delete that pick. I'm gonna move the rest of this up so that we have it there. Wonderful. And then we add Brandon Clarke to the team. Wonderful, wonderful. Let's move Yurtseven down. Let's bring Brandon Clarke here. You've got a competitive roster at this point now. Like, we're going to need to address the backup point guard and stuff like that, and we can kind of do that maybe in free agency or something like that, but you've got a couple of guys that can help you win in Sexton, Wiggins, Markkanen, Kessler, Brandon Clarke, right? And you've got some young guys to develop in Sensabaugh, Houston, Moody. We didn't have to give up a ton to make any of this happen. We've still got future picks to work with right now. We remained flexible. Let's go see if we can't do something interesting in the draft now. We have the 8th pick. We have the 32nd pick. Let's go try to round out the rest of this roster. Alrighty, so we're back on Fanspo, letting the little like AI and everything go through and do the draft. It's a pretty cool system or whatever. You guys should mess around with it if you haven't already. We're going to have the 8th pick. And really, like, this might just be a best player available type thing. Ron Holland's available, Stephon Castle, and Donovan Clingan. Oh my gosh. Okay, so if this was real life or whatever, like I can't in good faith like rationalize like a trade that would happen here, and I'm not going to go that in depth with this little scenario or whatever. If I'm the GM of this team and this happened and Donovan Clingan is still on the board somehow at 8, I don't foresee that happening. But I would be like calling up whatever team wants him, and I'm like, hey, what are you giving me to move back a couple spots, man? Because that's, you know, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. But anyway, we've got 2 interesting options here with Stephon Castle and Ron Holland. Both of them could reasonably be here. I could totally see that. Both are wings, and both of these guys I'm interested in drafting. Stephon Castle, I think, is more of a surefire NBA player, if you will. Ron Holland, much higher ceiling. So, as the Utah Jazz at this point, are we shooting for the fences, or, you know, what are we doing? Let's take a look at Ron Holland. 6'7", showed off a little bit of shooting towards the end of the season. It wasn't like great, but when you look at him, you're like, okay, that's an NBA player. Like, looks very physically gifted and everything. My problem with him is he wasn't a smart basketball player at all. Yeah, they even note it here. Shot creation, inconsistent, not good three-point shooter, turnover prone, doesn't have control of it, not a good passer, just not a smart basketball player right now. But you know what? We might have time to develop him. And so maybe we feel like we bring him to Utah, we teach him the right ways to play basketball. That might be okay. But let's take a look at Stephon Castle then. A little bit more ready to go. Yep, elite physically, right? Big, strong, athletic. I don't know why they have him listed as like a point guard. I know he's like a solid passer and everything, but come on. Yeah, very good defender. That's very true. Same with Ron Holland, by the way. Good defender there. Active on-ball defender. Yep, gets to the rim well. Good ball handler already. Gets to the rim. Good playmaker. Not a good shooter at all right now. Not the best scorer just in general. And yeah, he was inconsistent this year. The UConn guys usually translate pretty well overall, but I feel like with this pick, it makes more sense for us to shoot for the fences a little bit more and bank on the potential. So I'm going to draft Ron Holland. So Ron Holland joins the team. Woo, this is how much money he'll be making. I've got it already pasted right there. We get 4 years of Ron Holland. Okay, I'm going to move some of these guys around a little bit. We're going to move Baisley to here. You can come off of that spot. I'm going to move you guys down. And now we have Ron Holland on the team there. Awesome. We just used our 8th pick. That one's gone. Lovely, lovely, lovely. I'm happy with this pick. We're shooting for the fences a little bit. I think we can afford to do that, right? Because we've got starters in place right now. He can develop behind some guys that have been successful in this league. We've got a good system in place, got a good culture. I think this is fine. I like that pick for them a lot, actually. This is probably one of the best places that Ron Holland could end up, in all honesty. Somewhere where expectations are low. All right, so now we're going to let this simulate through. It's going to stop us on the 29th pick again, but I'm just going to move it to the correct team that we traded it to, which was the Memphis Grizzlies in this case, and then we'll get to use the 32nd pick. So we'll see who's available for us to take. Like maybe we find like a little guard that we could develop or something like that. Yep, here we are at the 29th pick. So this is going to the Memphis Grizzlies. We're sending it over there. So we trade the pick. So the Grizzlies, they picked, Terrence Shannon. I would have liked me some Terrence Shannon. But, all right, 32nd pick. Who is left on the board? Justin Edwards is a high ceiling pick. Interesting. What do we, need at this point? We need guards. We need ball handlers. We have Sexton and Keontae George, and both of them can kind of play the 1 and the 2, which is interesting. But I think just in general, we could use some more guards. So let's take a look at guards. Dylan Jones is interesting. DJ Wagner, high ceiling. Hunter Salas. Let's talk about Hunter Salas a little bit. So Hunter Salas was a junior out of Wake Forest this year, had a very good season for them. He's a pretty good defender, wasn't the best on ball or whatever, but he was shifty. He got to the rim pretty well. Wasn't like the greatest shooter, I'd ever say, but he can play with the ball. He's not a true point guard most likely. So an interesting choice, if nothing else. Like let's talk about like a Trey Alexander though, who's also a junior. So again, you got one of these bigger kind of combo guards or whatever, right? The guy doesn't have quite a true position, pretty good athlete. He crashes the glass really hard, big effort guy. He's shown spurts of being a good 3-point shooter. Could probably come in and play right away for some team, like as like a 10th man or something like that, because he's physically gifted enough to probably do so. Is he smart enough? Hard to say. He's pretty score oriented. So I don't know how much sense that makes, but maybe for like a potential pick or whatever, I don't necessarily hate it. You know what? I can talk myself into Trey Alexander. I'm not upset with that at all. He's a guy that can come play a couple different positions for us, which is good to have as a reserve. So I'm going to bring in Trey Alexander with our last pick. Trey Alexander, he'd be making roughly the same as Bryce Sensabaugh here, so we're going to throw that in. He'd get a 2-year contract because he's a second-round pick, and then this is where we can throw Trey Alexander. Perfect. We finished the draft, right? We used up this pick. We got 2 rookies coming in. We've got a lot of people that we can develop on this team while still remaining somewhat competitive, right? If the right guys get better, this team could possibly be fighting for a playoff seed, hopefully at least in the play-in, right? We're trying to stay competitive at the end of the day. We did add some better players onto this team. We've got 1 roster spot left. So what I want to do is I want to take a look at free agency, especially for like the Utah Jazz. Is there somebody that I want to like bring back from the team? Why are there like duplicates of all these guys? What's going on? Spot track. Taylor Horton Tucker could come back as like a backup ball handler for us. Kiara Lewis, not that all that interested. Chris Dunn. I'd probably be interested in bringing Chris Dunn back. We need another point guard, so you could probably talk me into that. Is there somebody else that's better, though, is the question. So let's go take a look at all teams, and I want to look at specifically point guards. Why are there so many duplicates? What's going on here? All right, the website's just a little bit broken right now. That's totally fine. Monte Morris, not that interested in. Reggie Jackson, Kiara Lewis, Pat Bev. No. Nothing all that crazy here. We could just take a flyer on Malachi Flynn because he dropped 50 on some people. That could be interesting. But no, I think we're just going to go re-sign Chris Dunn. How old is Chris Dunn at this point? Chris Dunn is 30. He's been in the NBA for a while. I could probably just give him like another minimum contract or something, and I'd be willing to bet that he'd be okay with coming back. But here's what we'll do to make sure he comes back, and because we have the cap space right now, I'll give him a 1-year, like $4 million contract to come back. So Chris Dunn, I'm going to get, but here's the thing. There's a team option for another 4 years or another $4 million if he's just absolutely killer this year. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So $4 million. It's technically a player option, so it's 2 years. So that way we ensure he comes back because he gets the money this year. We have the money to spend, and there we go. We throw Chris Dunn in right here, and this is your 2024-2025 Utah Jazz. Utah Jazz fans, you might not be the most excited about this team. Here's the idea with it. There's players that you can develop right now, right? And we're maintaining assets so that we can strike down the line when the opportunity presents itself. Because who are we going to get this year that's going to make us like all that great this year? We're probably not getting Paul George, right? We're not getting LeBron, none of those guys. There wasn't anybody worth moving up in the draft for, right? So what we did is we maintained our flexibility and our picks going forward. So we've got this. Did I ever add the 1 pick that we got in the 1 trade? I don't think we did, but you guys saw what happened and everything. So we've got all these assets moving forward so that next year, considering the fact that we're going to be a borderline playoff team, we're going to be able to move up in this draft if we want to. We're going to be able to throw a bunch of things at people. If a big-time player becomes available, we'll be able to throw our name into the ring because we've got the tradable contracts and interesting young players to make it happen. We're maintaining flexibility. So at the beginning of the video when I said, I don't know which way I want to go, I basically found a way to be indecisive. I'm like, I got guys to develop that are interesting to other teams. I've got guys that can help me win now, and I've got picks going forward still. So I maintained flexibility for the right time to strike, and that's what we're going to do. Yeah, you guys let me know what you think of this team and everything. I feel pretty solid about this, honestly. Like, there's opportunity for the young guys. There's still good players on this team that can help you win basketball games. This team doesn't cost any money whatsoever. You got to extend marketing, so that'll be a thing. But otherwise, like, Jazz fans, you guys are in a good position to make a move going forward. It's just not going to be this offseason. There's not a move to be made. I just don't think it exists. But hey, for the time being, y'all, I really appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you guys leave me a comment, and we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.